Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at AndyMoon.com's review of Bandai's High Metal R Glaug toy. This toy was released in May of 2016 for 13,000 yen. Inside the box, you get the toy itself, some instructions, two antennas, one is a replacement in case you lose the first one, and a display stand. Before we get too far into this review, let's stop and take a quick scale comparison. To the left is the High Metal R VF1, and then we have a High Metal R Regult. Here is the Glaug. The Glaug itself is about 19.5 centimeters tall. The VF1 is about 14. We got about 19 centimeters with the Regult. And then of course we have the Yamato V2 VF1, which is about 21 centimeters tall. Now all of these toys are easily dwarfed by the original Matchbox toy, which is a behemoth. Here you can see it. It is hard to get to stand in its tallest height, but if we try, we can get it something like this, which is just huge. So yes, obviously not competing with the Matchbox for size territory, but much sexier in just about every possible way. You may be wondering if there's a lot of metal in this toy, and like the other High Metal R toys, the answer is no, not really. There is metal where it matters in the joints, so here you can see a nice beefy metal joint right there, and metal throughout. Here's some metal in these joints. So really the metal is just in places where it's going to hopefully improve durability, so not a whole lot of metal otherwise. It's not some old classic toy that has big metal parts, like these arms are not metal. And generally that's a good thing because the metal is used where it's needed to strengthen things and not where it would cause strain on joints. Let's take a closer look at all the love that was poured into this toy. First you have things like these plastic bits that are not painted, although the tip of the gun is painted, but everything else where there could be accents, they are actually made out of separate plastic beads, which is very nice to see. So good detail, some care shown there. The antenna does not come on the toy, and one thing to note about that antenna is that it's not a perfectly round peg. There's a little slope to it, so when you go to install it, particularly the first time, one, do it somewhere where you're not going to lose the antenna, although you do have a backup. And two, be cognizant of that little tiny shape, and it'll find its little hole. All right, once it's on, you can pull this hinge out, which is nice to see. Move your gun out of the way, and then you will open up and find a cockpit. Now, there's not a lot of detail in that cockpit, but there is some, and that is always nice to see. You can't really fit much of a pilot figure in there. Also, the at the top are the gauges that the pilot would be looking at. So all that really nice to see detail. The eye, also plastic bit. I'll go over articulation in a little bit here, but obviously a lot of detail work. You have the tampo printing on the side. Also, it's hard to see the blue on the leg there. So overall, beautiful toy. A lot of care and attention put into the details. So right when you pull this toy out of the box, you're probably going to be pretty impressed by how good it looks. The bright red might be a little too bright for you, but otherwise it's sharp, it looks good, you're going to be happy with it. Then you're going to start handling it and you're going to be really happy with it, because this toy lets you do pretty much anything you can imagine. You obviously can swivel the main gun back and forth, up and down. Is that gun a little too long? Yeah, maybe, but it works, certainly. There's no articulation of these back nozzles, nor I don't think should there be. But moving your way down, these guns up in the front can let you do all sorts of fun things. So they're articulated there. The arms feature a gimmick that lets you actually pull them away from the body to get further range of motion. Obviously you got a ball joint there with a good amount of stiffness. And even if you look inside, there's some detail work inside the arm. So again, just really nice touches. Then below that, you have a swivel point here that also rocks. And then another pivot just below that. And if you look on the back of the gun, you can rotate the gun like so. And of course, also spin the gun. So tons and tons of articulation within the arms, and it is a blast to actually play with this toy. Moving down, you do have a rock at the waist. Then you have the ability to bring the legs way back for a flight mode, and I'll get into when I get to the display stand here, and of course way forward as well. You also have the ability to bring the legs way out for super aggressive stances. And moving down, you have a joint, a couple of joints here. So there's a joint, a rocker joint in the hip. That's the metal one. And then there's a knee joint as well. Nice clicky knee joint, as well as the ability to rotate at the knee. So just amazing amounts of articulation in there. Moving down, there is a gimmick. There are little claspers on the feet, or above the feet. Then you can individually articulate the toes. And they rock on another joint. It has a lot of range of motion to the back, more limited range of motion forward. So just a ton of articulation. You will have a lot of fun finding out ways to make this toy look super aggressive and give your VF1 toys hell. One articulation detail I missed, the feet can also pivot left and right, which will help you with some of the more extreme dynamic poses. I'm a huge fan of the Glaug, but I am much less of a fan of the included display stand, which you can see here. I've kind of put a flying pose Glaug ahead of you. The rear claspers are grabbing the legs to give it a little bit of stability, but you can see I can actually remove them. And my toy will still function just fine on this display stand. It definitely does add some stability though, because the toy itself is very heavy. You also have the option to extend the height. I don't think you're going to really want to do that because again, toy is very heavy. Whatever you choose to do with it, if you use the extension, it just becomes less stable. This is the display stand adapter that comes with the toy. It actually clasps on very securely, so that was good to see. There's a fat tooth in the back, a thin tooth in the front, little recessed bits for it to attach to, and it holds on very well. So really it's just about the weight of the toy and the stability when it's on the display stand. One thing I don't think I mentioned in articulation is you do have a pivot up and down also at the waist. So all very good to see. Overall, the display stand is so-so, but the toy is not. It is very good. If you've ever been a fan of this mech, your previous only option was this Matchbox toy, which is obviously far outmoded at this point. This toy looks great, functions great, it is fun to handle, and it's still available. So as of filming this, one of the few High Metal R releases that didn't have a 5-minute pre-sale window and then disappear forever. So if you're at all curious, I suggest you definitely go out and purchase one.